Hi, I'm Woody Huffines. I own the NerdsToGo in McKinney and Frisco, Texas, and this is Tech for the Untechnical. So this Internet of Things security, what's the next step? We've talked about the Internet of Things and securing your Internet of Things devices. And remember, first step is, do I really want to have them? Here's a video. You can think about it that way. Second step is secure your network. Here's a video. You can watch the network security video. The third thing you need to do is take care with the devices and the applications themselves. Anytime that you have something connected to your network, there's a danger that someone can get into your network through that network connected device. And the problem that we've been having with Internet of Things devices, whether they're light bulbs or cameras, is that they haven't been built with security in mind. No surprise, the internet was not built with security in mind. So this isn't a big surprise, and because they have grown pretty rapidly, there's not a good internet safety culture or security culture around a lot of these Internet of Things companies. So if you've decided that you want an Internet of Things device or an Internet of Things appliance in your life, the first thing that you need to pay attention to when you start using that device is the application that you use to control the device. And generally, those applications are on your phone. So the first thing that you need to do is make sure that that phone app is secure. And the first thing that you can do to make sure the phone app is secure is get it from a qualified source. Don't download the app for a phone from a website. Get it from the Google Play Store in the case of the Android operating system, and the Apple Store from if you have an iPhone, because you don't want an app that is already insecure that's going to phone home with your information and send it 2 or 3 different places. So the first thing to pay attention to is pay attention to the app that you're going to use and make sure that that app comes from the appropriate source, not from the website of the manufacturer, but from the Apple Store or the Android Google Play Store. That's step 1. Step 2, when you start putting that device together, whether you're interfacing with that device through your phone application or through your home computer when you're setting it up, it's very important to understand all of the options that you have to secure that device. For example, recently there was an Internet of Things device that had an admin account in the device, so that it was built for the ability for an administrator to come in and make changes with the device. And it's great to have an admin account, and it's great to have that admin account out there so that you could administer all of the functions of that device. That's awesome. If you know there's an admin account out there, number 1, and number 2, if you change the admin account password. Devices for decades have had admin accounts on them, and the username is admin, and the password's admin, and a lot of people know that the first thing that you try when you try to log into something is put admin as the username, admin as the password, see if you can get in. So when you install one of these Internet of Things devices, go look at all the places that you can put a password in, put a username in, and make sure that you hit all of them. So spend some time with the application in the settings menu or the application menu or your account menu, anything that has the ability to look at whatever functionality you can find about that device. It's important to get started with that as soon as you start putting these things together to make sure that you don't have a hidden account like an admin account, and that you change every password that you can change. Brings us to number 2, passwords, passwords, passwords. I've said it a bazillion times, and here's a playlist that you can talk about passwords, several videos about passwords, passwords, passwords. Don't reuse your passwords. Make long, strong passwords. Make sure that the passwords aren't repeated in other places. Don't reuse your passwords. Don't reuse your passwords. All the stuff that we've seen in the last couple of weeks with the Ring camera devices are probably caused by people reusing passwords. That password database, a password database that had some Ring customers in it, was published on the internet. There's 3,000 or 4,000 users. And that was done by a botnet. And here's a more fulsome explanation of a botnet, but basically a bad guy uses a network of computers to test passwords to see if they're viable or not. And on the dark web, there were Ring accounts that were posted, and that was some of the people that got hacked were on that list of passwords. Don't reuse your passwords. Make long, complex passwords. Best of all, use a password manager. link to a password manager discussion here. LastPass is my favorite. You can choose whichever one you like, but LastPass is my favorite, something to consider. The next thing that you want to do, and it's really not in this order, this is really out of order, but it's the one that's the most important, so I want to leave it to last. When you look at buying an Internet of Things device, whether it's an Amazon Alexa or a light bulb that changes colors by voice command, you need to spend some time, if you're security conscious, about finding out what kind of security posture that application and that Internet of Things device has. For example, Ring right now is taking a beating because they don't have login notifications. They don't have the ability for you to see where all your devices logged in, and they don't have a timeout or a failure mode so that after somebody's entered the wrong password 2 or 3 times, it resets the password. There are some things that they could have done to make the security of the Ring infrastructure a lot better for end users. For example, not letting someone try infinite number of password logins before it locks the account. That keeps somebody from trying a bunch of different passwords, what's called a brute force attack, against your account because it locks them out. The second thing that would have been really handy for them to have is a list of logged in devices. If you go onto Facebook or you go onto your Google account, you can go into the security settings and see all of the instances and all of the devices with the IP addresses for the things that are logged into your Google account, for example. Now, if you started having problems with your Ring account and you went to your Ring account and found out that there was a phone that was an iPhone and you're an Android family and it was logged in from Terre Haute, Indiana, and you live in Florida, you got a pretty good idea you've been hacked. You can get rid of that. So you want to look for the ability for you to have a number of password attempts and a lockout, the ability to look for multiple logins and to review the logins that you've got. And last and most importantly is you want multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication, video here, you can go in and look at a way to keep somebody, even if you lose your password and that password database gets out, they need that second factor of authentication to get in. And that increases your security by leaps and bounds. And it's a pretty simple step to take. Anything that you have, anything in your life, whether it's an Internet of Things device or not, if multi-factor authentication is available, choose the multi-factor authentication. It does wonders for you. Oh, and one more thing. If you can read on the packaging, anytime that an Internet of Things device is communicating someplace else, for example, if you have a light bulb and the light bulb just turns on and turns off, or you got a light switch and it turns on and turns off, and it's an internet connected light switch, it's probably not moving a whole lot of information back to the home country unless it's got a hidden camera in it or a hidden microphone in it, which is something we'll talk about later. But if you have a Ring doorbell or you have a security camera or a baby monitor and it has the ability to go back and look in the past to see what happened 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 6 months ago, that means that data has to be stored someplace. And if that data is being stored someplace, you want 2 things. First of all, you want the data to be encrypted from its origin to the place of storage. And second, you want the data encrypted at the place of storage. So some places will say, yeah, we encrypt your data, when what they do is use an HTTPS tunnel, and your data is encrypted as it goes over the internet, but then when they get to their servers, it's stored in plain text and in unencrypted form, so that anybody that has access to that database has access to your data. They can go back and look at your video camera, or they can go back and listen to the conversations that were recorded. I mentioned earlier there was 4 terabytes of exposed unencrypted data on a server in China that anybody could go look at. So pay attention to how you put that app together. Pay attention to what information the app gives you and where you can change passwords. And finally, last point, don't just blindly enter data into the app. If it asks for your address, or it asks for a phone number, or it asks for an email, we are so used to just filling those forms out. Really think about whether you want to give that data out to somebody that's turning a light bulb in your house. If that database gets out because the light bulb manufacturer does a poor job of securing the data, and that database gets hacked, and then users have that database, or bad guys have that database, then they know the exact location for every light bulb that's on the internet from that company that has a security vulnerability that they may be able to get to. Is it really important for the people that have the light bulb changed color by voice to have your address, or your real address at least? If it's a required thing on the form, make something up. You can put Superman's address. I'm just saying. Don't put the data in the form that you don't think they need. So, let's go through the process. Think about it's worth it. Secure your network. After you get the devices, make sure you go through the app, change every application, change every place in the application where you can put a username and password. Use strong passwords. Always use strong passwords. Password manager is a better choice. Look at the security of the app and the website and see if you have the ability to look at all the logins and to log people out. Make sure you have two-factor authentication. And finally, if possible, find out if encryption is part of the deal. In other words, your data is encrypted from its inception to where it's stored, and that it's encrypted in storage. I'm Woody Huffines. I own the NerdsToGo in McKinney in Frisco, Texas. This has been Tech for the Untechnical. If this stuff helps you out and you enjoy it, hit the subscribe button below, ring the notification bell. When one comes out, you'll be notified. Hit the like button. And give me a comment about what you would like to see in the future, because there's a whole bunch of stuff I could sit here and talk about, but if it's not of interest to you, it's probably not useful to you. Thanks for joining us.